Alright, the construction drawings for this project are about done. You'll have to make a few decisions, make a few adjustments here and there, and these probably could be ready to go in the next, after you tell me, they'll be ready to go in the next 24 hours or so, after you let me know on some of these decisions. Right now it's only 3 pages long. We probably can limit it to that. There were a few different ways to meet the energy code. In the first way, because you need so much in the walls and you need so much in the attic, the first way was going to require us to lift the roof planes for this where they were not going to align with the existing. And that would enable you to only run R38 fiberglass in the attic. But if we want those to line up with the existing, which I think is desirable, like this is a section through the new bedroom, looking this way. You can keep the trusses low where this comes down to 4, 5, or 6 inches here, but you'll have to run R49 fiberglass, blown or blown cellulose or fiberglass, R49 in the area of the attic in which it can be run. In terms of the walls, the simplest way to meet the code there is to just frame it of 2x6s instead of 2x4s. There's an error here. This is actually going to be R20 fiberglass with no exterior insulating sheeting or anything like that. So that's that, and this was pretty much, Rich and I had come, this was the way to go. You'll probably agree, but that's just a quick look at that. Now, in terms of how we were going to lay the building out, you had outlined, 17 by 14 roughly. We wanted to stay off of this basement window here, so that called this dimension out. And on this end, we wanted to preserve this office or bedroom window, at least one of these windows here. So that determined this margin here. And this is just a standard modular dimension for using a concrete block. It all worked out pretty well as far as staying off of that, coming over here as far as we could and preserving that window, and having this a standard kind of dimension here. You probably could go out longer if you wanted to. I'm just showing it to 17. That's what you had outlined. Now I will try to not make this any more complicated than it needs to be. A lot of this was built off your sketch you provided me with the closets at this end. I'm just showing the different types of doors. I don't think you had actually outlined what type of door would be over those. One of the things that's been clarified, having drawn this and then taking the field dimensions, etc., is we're not going to have this kind of luxury of having this little leg of wall come out here to keep the nightstand behind that wall and still keep a flow through here. So certainly that impacts some of the floor planning. But going back now to that first plan, putting in your furniture, first you had said you needed a minimum 13.6 from the face of this. This is standard closet depth here, and you needed 13.6 between these, which you've got that by 6 or 8 inches. But again, there's this issue here. When we put these walls in, outlined by that window downstairs and this window here, this is the kind of space we have coming through here. So beginning to put in the furniture, this is all sized according to what you sent over in terms of its dimension, the 78 by 84 king bed, the bench at the bottom. You didn't really say where you wanted these two pieces here, but I put them here. I mean, they could be, I did not show that where the 20 is here, but in any case, because of that issue there, you can see having any kind of a nightstand here, it begins to squeeze the pathway down beyond what is even remotely acceptable. So shifting, and I had this door centered in here. That's not required. That door can go anywhere along here, and of course it can be a sliding door as well, and maybe that's what you'll decide on. Sliding door is probably actually better because of the way the stairs come up. That way you're accessing it from the edge where there's a railing. So, but in this, in order to get enough space here, what I've done is just shift the bed off center. Whether the door moves with that or whether that's really bothersome, and it would be to some people, that off-centerness there, you'll have to decide, but I'll cover a few more things here. So shifting that over managed to, increase our flow where it's at least you can get through beside here. And if this were just a little nightstand, but I don't know where this dresser goes then. You also wanted a door into this, which would become the office, and that's the only place I see being able to get the door in there and preserve these closets here and keep this dresser in the master bedroom. So leaving that alone for a minute, we'll return to that, but mapping out what we do down here, and this again, first just building from your sketch. I maintained a 3-foot path through here. Your sketch shows that a little tighter there, but we had preponderance of room back in these areas here for this, what we wanted to do back here. Again, this is all put together for you to visualize and see where and how any adjustments that you might want ought to be made. This was an error here, and I correct that on the next page. It's actually that deep. Put in some windows depending on where and how things shape up. I'm just showing some. These are these high windows above the bed, but you can do pretty much anything you want with your windowing. We can't cover this whole wall with glass, but pretty much you could cover a lot of this with glass. It would have to have a margin here and a margin here. So you can determine what the outside of that looks like and what these windows are as far as that goes. But these next couple slides are really just some horsing around with this space down in here and a few of the other elements of the plan. These stairs, I'm showing these as straight down. You had showed these as kind of pedestal stairs like this, where they get bigger and bigger as they go down. But this, we have to come down 5 risers, so if we did that, by the time we're done, we'd be covering this whole area with stairs. This is not to say that maybe you instead would like a little tiny porch here and maybe some stairs going down one way or another. Again, that's something you could kind of think about and get with me. But I just set this up according to your sketch. Again, there's a lot of room, but you have your own ideas about exactly how that's going to work for you, and you can communicate those to me. I wasn't sure whether this was showing that closet going away completely or what was exactly happening there. So again, in this next one, I just show that closet going completely away. This becomes the largest toilet room ever. So you'll have to give me some feedback on how you actually want that. And the other thing that's not, been considered here, I didn't get a lot of time there at the house, is how they get this plumbing where it needs to go. I'm assuming it needs to come over here somewhere, the drain plumbing for this, which if the toilet's here, that means it goes between those joists this way, I think, and then over this way. We would have to look at that once you have access, and little things like that can be changed as we go along. But in terms of, there's just, like I said, a few different looks of what we possibly could do with this master bath area down here. That shower's pretty big, but maybe that's what you want. This one, I shift the toilet down to have its own little alcove down here, and then this becomes this big empty area, and I don't know if that's a dressing area or exactly what's going to happen there. Again, there's a lot of space here, and I took some time to consider, well, maybe it's better to put this whole master bath over here and try to push a new office over here. I did not explore that extensively because it wasn't what you had in mind in the first place, so I left it alone, but we can come back to that if we have to. And then the only other thing in this really was just pointing out how much extra space there was. This isn't anything I care for in particular. You have a separate hall to here, and then we have movement around in the bathroom itself, which enables the bathroom to be shut if there were a door here. You could close off noise from the master bedroom with the master bath. Again, though, this is a pretty big departure from your sketch. I'm showing glass block in that shower area, but you can get with me on that. And I think I did a few other things. Okay, so this here goes back to leaving that closet in place. The less work we do, tearing things apart, if that can work for you, and then provides the toilet room here, and still what I would consider a pretty giant shower over here. Here, in terms of windowing, I've really just moved the office window that we took out here. I've put it here in front of the toilet. This is really a private space back here, so you don't have to worry too much about privacy, etc. But this, so if that were a dressing room, and I'm not saying it will be, and I'm not saying, you'll have to determine exactly how that space is divided up with me. Again, this window exists. This is a relocated window. This is a glass block. Anything can happen in terms of windowing in this shower. But maybe this is another way to get the door into the office. We lose the one closet in there, but then you could shift your the dresser can go here. Okay, I had just the dresser, of course, can go here. I just moved it down here as just something to think about. But another way to get the door into that office and preserve some wall space there is something like this. At least then, if you want to, you could have the chair in the master bedroom. So I know this is probably more than you really wanted to think about with regard to all this, and you can feel free to get with me and we can talk things over. This was the kind of final thing I did to get that space opened up through there. You can see, rather than having it, it's kind of labyrinthine. It's a little bit much for me. I think this is an improvement, even though there's a jog here. I mean, at this point, if you wanted to, though, I wouldn't recommend it. You could have that wall come over some. This is all private back here, so there's no real need for it, and I wouldn't recommend it in terms of flow. But this is one way to solve that issue without going to a more extreme measure. And the more extreme measure, of course, is moving that whole structure over. Sadly, though, we would lose both the basement windows down here if we did that. And it's like this, up here, where we move over like this. And I've left this undeveloped again, going back to your original plan, but anything can still happen down here. That's been shown. In this, though, we shift this over on the other side of that basement window, and that basement window becomes our crawl space access. The other window is lost completely because it's situated around here. But it leaves this bedroom, and obviously, well, maybe I show one more on the, yeah, I probably do. It leaves these windows both alone, and does this, and then to get the door into the office is either going to be like, it's going to be like this. Maybe something happens down here where this dresser can go down here and you can have a chair in here. But this is another way to get into the office. Again, though, this loses both those basement windows on that side. So probably you'll have to re-watch this film a couple times to get some of the meat of what I'm talking about. And feel free to call me again. I can clarify it. This was just a look from the outside, just from this angle, with the one there or the one pushed back this way. So that, I just wanted to run those by you, and some of this we need to have exactly where these walls, this wall and that back wall and this one, the size of the addition and its location in the house. But in terms of that interior, we can horse around with those floor plans, this area here, a little longer. The main decision that needs made right now is whether something like this can work for you, or even that can work for you. That maps those walls out, leaves those right where they are. But if you think that it makes sense to shift this like this, then we'll have to know that as well. Again, feel free to telephone me and we can firm up these windows as we go along as well, but you can get with me on what I'm doing wrong in here possibly, or what I should change. Just some things for you to consider so that we can close in on this and get it ready to go.